In this video we are going to know about Kashmir. Kashmir, region of the northwestern Indian subcontinent. It is bounded by the Uyghur Autonomous Region of Xinjiang to the northeast and the Tibet Autonomous Region to the east, both parts of China, by the Indian states of Himachal Pradesh and Punjab to the south, by Pakistan to the west, and by Afghanistan to the northwest. The region, with a total area of some 85,800 square miles, 222,200 square kilometers, has been the subject of dispute between India and Pakistan since the partition of the Indian subcontinent in 1947. The northern and western portions are administered by Pakistan and comprise three areas: Azad Kashmir, Gilgit, and Baltistan, the last two being part of a single administrative unit called Gilgit-Baltistan, formerly northern areas. Administered by India are the southern and southeastern portions, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. The Indian and Pakistani administered portions are divided by a line of control agreed to in 1972, although neither country recognizes it as an international boundary. In addition, China became active in the eastern area of Kashmir in the 1950s and has controlled the northeastern part of Ladakh, the easternmost portion of the region, since 1962. Land and people. The Kashmir region is predominantly mountainous, with deep, narrow valleys and high, barren plateaus. The relatively low-lying Jammu and Poonch plains in the southwest are separated by the thickly forested Himalayan foothills and the Perpenjal range of the Lesser Himalayas from the larger, more fertile, and more heavily populated Vale of Kashmir to the north. The Vale, situated at an elevation of about 5,300 feet, 1,600 meters, constitutes the basin of the upper Jhelum River and contains the city of Srinagar. Jammu and the Vale lie in Indian-administered Jammu and Kashmir, while the Punch lowlands are largely in Azad Kashmir. Rising northeast of the Vale is the western part of the Great Himalayas, the peaks of which reach elevations of 20,000 feet, 6,100 meters, or higher. Farther to the northeast is the high, mountainous plateau region of Ladakh, which is cut by the rugged valley of the northwestward flowing Indus River. Extending roughly northwestward from the Himalayas are the lofty peaks of the Karakoram range, including K2, Mount Godwanastan, which at 28,251 feet, 8,611 meters, is the second highest peak in the world, after Mount Everest. The region is located along the northernmost extremity of the Indian-Australian tectonic plate. The subduction of that plate beneath the Eurasian plate, the process that for roughly 50 million years has been creating the Himalayas, has produced heavy seismic activity in Kashmir. One especially powerful earthquake in 2005 devastated Muzaffarabad, which is the administrative center of Azad Kashmir, and adjacent areas including parts of India's Jammu and Kashmir state, now Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory, and Pakistan's northwest frontier province, now Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Vidyavrata, Leh, India, Palace of the Kings of Ladakh. Leh, India, Palace of the Kings of Ladakh. Palace of the Kings of Ladakh, center background, in Leh, Ladakh Union Territory, India. Ena Imran. History. The region to 1947. According to legend, an ascetic named Kashyapa reclaimed the land now comprising Kashmir from a vast lake. That land came to be known as Kashyapamurand, later, Kashmir. Buddhism was introduced by the Mauryan Emperor Ashoka in the 3rd century BCE, and from the 9th to the 12th century CE the region appears to have achieved considerable prominence as a center of Hindu culture. A succession of Hindu dynasties ruled Kashmir until 1346, when it came under Muslim rule. The Muslim period lasted nearly 5 centuries, ending when Kashmir was annexed to the Sikh kingdom of the Punjab in 1819 and then to the Dogra kingdom of Jammu in 1846. Thus, the Kashmir region in its contemporary form dates from 1846, when, by the treaties of Lahore and Amritsar at the conclusion of the First Sikh War, Raja Gulab Singh, the Dogra ruler of Jammu, was created maharaja, ruling prince, of an extensive but somewhat ill-defined Himalayan kingdom to the eastward of the River Indus and westward of the River Ravi. The creation of this princely state helped the British safeguard their northern flank in their advance to the Indus and beyond during the latter part of the 19th century. The state thus formed part of a complex political buffer zone interposed by the British between their Indian Empire and the empires of Russia and China to the north. For Gulab Singh, confirmation of title to these mountain territories marked the culmination of almost a quarter-century of campaigning and diplomatic negotiation among the petty hill kingdoms along the northern borderlands of the Sikh Empire of the Punjab. Some attempts were made in the 19th century to define the boundaries of the territory, but precise definition was in many cases defeated by the nature of the country and by the existence of huge tracts lacking permanent human settlement. In the far north, for example, the Maharaja's authority certainly extended to the Karakoram range, but beyond that lay a debatable zone on the borders of the Turkestan and Xinjiang regions of Central Asia, and the boundary was never demarcated. There were similar doubts about the alignment of the frontier where this northern zone skirted the region known as Aksai Chin, to the east, and joined the better known and more precisely delineated boundary with Tibet, which had served for centuries as the eastern border of the Ladakh region. The pattern of boundaries in the northwest became clearer in the last decade of the 19th century, when Britain, in negotiations with Afghanistan and Russia, delimited boundaries in the Pamirs region. At that time Gilgit, always understood to be part of Kashmir, was for strategic reasons constituted as a special agency in 1889 under a British agent. The Kashmir problem. As long as the territory's existence was guaranteed by the United Kingdom, the weaknesses in its structure and along its peripheries were not of great consequence, but they became apparent after the British withdrawal from South Asia in 1947. By the terms agreed to by India and Pakistan for the partition of the Indian subcontinent, the rulers of princely states were given the right to opt for either Pakistan or India or, with certain reservations, to remain independent. Hari Singh, the Maharaja of Kashmir, initially believed that by delaying his decision he could maintain the independence of Kashmir, but, caught up in a train of events that included a revolution among his Muslim subjects along the western borders of the state and the intervention of Pashtun tribesmen, he signed an instrument of accession to the Indian Union in October 1947. This was the signal for intervention both by Pakistan, which considered the state to be a natural extension of Pakistan, and by India, which intended to confirm the act of accession. Localized warfare continued during 1948 and ended, through the intercession of the United Nations, in a ceasefire that took effect in January 1949. In July of that year, India and Pakistan defined a ceasefire line, the line of control, that divided the administration of the territory. Regarded at the time as a temporary expedient, the partition along that line still exists. Attempts at resolution and legitimization. Although there was a clear Muslim majority in Kashmir before the 1947 partition, and its economic, cultural, and geographic contiguity with the Muslim majority area of the Punjab could be convincingly demonstrated, the political developments during and after the partition resulted in a division of the region. Pakistan was left with territory that, although basically Muslim in character, was thinly populated, relatively inaccessible, and economically underdeveloped. The largest Muslim group, situated in the Vale of Kashmir and estimated to number more than half the population of the entire region, lay in Indian-administered territory, with its former outlets via the Jhelum Valley route blocked.